I found out my husband of 32 years was trying to destroy me on a Tuesday afternoon while I was folding his underwear. That detail still bothers me. Not the betrayal itself, but the underwear. Calvin Klein boxer briefs, navy blue, the ones I'd been buying for him since 1996 when he couldn't afford anything but Hanes from Walmart. I was folding them into perfect little rectangles the way he liked, placing them in his mahogany dresser drawer when I heard his voice coming from my phone. Let me explain. My youngest son, Lucas, had knee surgery 3 weeks earlier. ACL tear from a basketball accident at NYU. He came home to Palm Beach to recover, and I installed a baby monitor in his room. A Nanit camera, the expensive kind, because I wanted to make sure he didn't need anything during the night. He was 20 years old and hated being watched, but mothers don't stop worrying just because their children grow taller than them. Lucas had gone back to New York 2 days before. I forgot to uninstall the app from my phone. The camera was still there, sitting on his nightstand, pointing at an empty bed in an empty room, or so I thought. Richard had been using Lucas's room for phone calls. I didn't know this until that Tuesday, when a notification popped up on my screen. Motion detected. I almost ignored it. I wish I had ignored it, but I tapped the notification while holding a pair of his navy blue underwear, and I heard my husband's voice, clear as a Sunday sermon. She has a history of anxiety. That's gold, Veronica. Pure gold. I stopped breathing. The prescriptions from 2019 are still on file, Richard continued. I could see him now, pacing by Lucas's window, his back to the camera. He didn't know it was there. He thought the room was dead, a safe space. If we frame it correctly, we can establish a pattern of emotional instability. A woman's voice came through the speaker. Professional, calm, like she was discussing quarterly earnings instead of my sanity. I've handled 6 cases like this in the past 2 years. Wives of high net worth individuals who thought they were entitled to 50%. None of them got more than 15. The key is documentation. We need her to react emotionally on record. She will, Richard said. I could hear the smile in his voice. 32 years of marriage, and I knew every inflection, every pause. This was his closing a deal voice, the one he used when he knew he'd already won. Olivia's predictable. Push the right buttons and she crumbles. Always has. I sat down on the edge of our bed. The California king I'd picked out 14 years ago when we moved into this house. The house I designed from the ground up, every tile, every fixture, every goddamn doorknob. $18 million of my taste, my vision, my life, and he was planning to take it from me. The conversation continued for another 11 minutes. I know because I recorded it on my iPad, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it twice. They discussed strategy, timelines. A woman named Veronica Shaw, who apparently specialized in what she called preemptive reputation management for high asset divorces. Richard paid her $150,000. I heard him confirm the wire transfer. They talked about my children. Tyler's on board, Richard said, and my heart cracked down the middle. Tyler, my firstborn, 32 years old, working as a fund manager for his father's company. He understands the financial implications of an uncontrolled divorce. And the daughters? Chloe's a lost cause. She's always been her mother's pet. But Sophie. Richard paused. I watched him turn toward the window, his profile sharp against the afternoon light. Sophie's manageable. She wants to believe her father. We can use that. He said it like Sophie was a tool, a chess piece. My 24-year-old daughter, who called me every Sunday night to tell me about her week, who still asked for my banana bread recipe even though I'd given it to her 6 times. She was something to be used. The woman asked about a dossier. It's almost complete, Richard said. Medical records, some photographs that can be taken out of context, a few incidents I've documented over the years. Small things. Her forgetting appointments, that time she got lost driving to her sister's house. The wine consumption, enough to suggest cognitive decline, enough to plant doubt. I turned off the app. I sat there for a long time. The underwear was still in my hand, warm from the dryer. I looked at it and thought about all the things I'd done for this man. The career I'd abandoned when Tyler was born. The clients I'd turned away when he said he needed me at home. The dinner parties I'd hosted. The investors I'd charmed. The nights I'd spent alone while he built his empire on the foundation of my sacrifice. 32 years, 4 children, 1 life, completely intertwined with his. And he was building a case to prove I was crazy. I didn't confront him. I want you to understand that. The old Olivia would have confronted him. The old Olivia would have stormed into his office with a recording playing on speaker, would have screamed and cried and demanded explanations. The old Olivia would have given him exactly what he wanted. An emotional reaction, documented, time-stamped, usable. I made dinner instead. Salmon with dill sauce, roasted asparagus, wild rice pilaf, his favorites. I set the table with a Bernardaud china we'd bought in Paris for our 20th anniversary. I opened a bottle of the 2015 Camus Cabernet he kept for special occasions. I smiled when he came home at 7:30, kissed his cheek, asked about his day. Long meetings, he said, loosening his tie. The Riverside project is a headache. I'm sorry, honey. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. Dinner's ready. He looked at the table, the candles, the wine. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Suspicion? Guilt? It vanished before I could name it. What's the occasion? No occasion. Just felt like cooking. He smiled. The same smile I'd fallen in love with in 1989, when he was a hungry young contractor with big dreams and bigger ambition. The smile that had convinced me to quit my job, to move across the country, to give him everything. You're too good to me, Liv. I poured his wine. We ate dinner together, talking about nothing. The weather, a neighbor's new landscaping, a charity gala next month that I now realized I would never attend as his wife. I watched him chew, swallow, sip. I studied the face I'd kissed 10,000 times and saw a stranger. How long had he been planning this? The woman on the phone mentioned 6 cases in 2 years. Had Richard found her a year ago? 2. Had he been documenting my incidents while I rubbed his shoulders after long days, while I picked out ties for his birthday, while I made love to him in our $18 million bedroom? The salmon stuck in my throat. You okay? Richard asked. You look pale. Just tired. Lucas being gone is an adjustment. He's fine. Kids bounce back. He took another bite, chewed thoughtfully. You worry too much, Olivia. You always have. Maybe you should talk to Dr. Abrams again. The anxiety. He let the sentence hang. I understood now. Every suggestion, every gentle nudge toward therapy, toward medication, toward rest. It was all evidence. Breadcrumbs leading to a portrait of an unstable woman who couldn't be trusted with half of $1. $2 billion. Maybe you're right, I said. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I just want what's best for you. I squeezed back. That night, I lay in bed beside him, listening to him breathe. Deep, even breaths. The sleep of a man with no conscience, no guilt, no awareness that his wife was lying 3 inches away, rewriting the story of their entire marriage. I thought about the dossier, the photographs, the medical records from 2019, when I'd taken Xanax for 3 months after my mother died. The incidents he documented. How many were real? How many had he manufactured? And Veronica Shaw. Who was she? How did one become a professional destroyer of wives? I needed to know. But first, I needed to understand the size of the battlefield. Richard had Tyler. He was working on Sophie. My sister Diane had been acting strange lately. Distant, evasive. She cancelled our last 3 lunch dates with flimsy excuses. Was Diane part of this too? The thought made me nauseous. I got out of bed at 3 a.m. and went to Richard's home office. He never locked it. Why would he? I was just his anxious, forgetful wife. Too busy folding underwear to notice anything important. His laptop was password protected, but I knew the password. Our wedding anniversary, backward, plus the year Tyler was born. He'd used the same formula for 20 years because he was arrogant enough to believe I'd never think to look. I found the email from Veronica Shaw in his deleted folder. He'd emptied the trash, but he didn't know about the server backup. I did. I'd set it up myself when he complained about losing important files 3 years ago. The email contained an attachment, a PDF titled Brennan O. Preliminary Assessment. I opened it. 37 pages. My life, dissected and distorted. Photos of me at a charity event, glass of wine in hand, eyes half closed mid-blink, captioned, Evidence of Public Intoxication, March 2022. A screenshot of a text I'd sent to Chloe. I feel like I'm losing my mind with everything going on. Presented without context, without the fact that I'd been planning her surprise birthday party while managing Lucas's college applications. Page after page of my words, my moments, my ordinary human struggles, twisted into evidence of mental collapse. And at the end, a note from Veronica Shaw. With proper presentation, this dossier should be sufficient to establish Mrs. Brennan as an unreliable witness to her own marriage. Recommend escalating timeline. Client reports, wife has become suspicious. Suggest initiating phase 2. Removal from primary residence within 60 days. 60 days. They were going to take my home in 60 days. I closed the laptop. I walked back to the bedroom. I climbed into bed beside my husband, who was still sleeping the sleep of the innocent, and I started to plan. The next morning, Richard left for the office at 7 a.m. I kissed him goodbye like always. I waved from the doorway like always. I waited until his Mercedes disappeared around the corner. Then I called Chloe. Mom, it's barely 8 o'clock. Is everything okay? I need you to come to Palm Beach this weekend. Don't tell your father. Don't tell Sophie. Just come. Silence on the line. My daughter, my practical, skeptical daughter, processing. Mom, what's going on? I'll explain when you get here. But Chloe, I paused, looking at the empty driveway, the perfect lawn, the house I built and was about to lose. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Always. Good, because I just found out something about your father, about this family, and I need someone on my side before I figure out how deep this goes. I hung up before I could say more. On the kitchen counter, my phone buzzed. A text from Diane. Lunch Tuesday? My treat. We need to talk about Mom's estate. Our mother had been dead for 5 years. There was no estate left to discuss. I stared at the message, remembering what Richard had said about pushing the right buttons, about making me react. Was this the beginning of phase 2? Was my own sister part of the plan to prove I was unstable? I typed back, sure, name the place. If they wanted to play a game, I would play. But this time, I would write the rules. Chloe arrived on Friday evening with a carry-on suitcase and a look I hadn't seen since she was 16 and caught her boyfriend cheating at prom. Mom, you look like you haven't slept in 3 days. I haven't. We sat in the kitchen, the one room in this house that still felt like mine. I'd designed it around a farmhouse table I found at an estate sale in Vermont, back when Richard and I used to take road trips together, back when he held my hand while I haggled over antiques. The table was solid oak, scarred and beautiful, and I'd served 10,000 family dinners on its surface. I wondered if they'd let me keep it. I showed Chloe the recording first, watched her face as she listened to her father's voice, calm and strategic, discussing how to prove her mother was unstable. She didn't cry. My daughter was too practical for tears. That's Veronica Shaw, she said when the woman's voice came through. I've heard that name before. Where? Dad mentioned her at Thanksgiving. Thought she was a consultant for the Riverside Project, some kind of legal advisor. Chloe pressed pause, her jaw tight. He introduced her to Tyler. The name hit me like cold water. Tyler knows her? They had lunch together in January. I saw it on his Instagram story. He deleted it the next day. My son, my firstborn, the baby I nursed for 14 months, the toddler whose nightmares I soothed, the teenager whose college applications I proofread 17 times. He'd had lunch with the woman hired to destroy me. I need to know who else is involved, I said. Your father mentioned a dossier, photographs, medical records, incidents he's been documenting for years. Someone's been helping him collect this information. Chloe was quiet for a moment. Aunt Diane's been weird lately. I noticed. No, Mom, really weird. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through text messages. Look at this. She texted me last month asking about your drinking. Said she was concerned because you seemed off at Easter. I remembered Easter. I'd had 2 glasses of wine with dinner, same as always. Diane had taken a photo of me mid-laugh, eyes crinkled, glass raised. At the time, I thought she was capturing a happy moment. Now, I wondered if it was in the dossier. She's been asking questions, Chloe continued, about your sleep schedule, your appointments, whether you've been forgetful. I thought she was just being nosy. But if Dad's paying her, we don't know that yet. Mom, Chloe set down her phone. Aunt Diane declared bankruptcy 3 years ago. She lost the house in Westchester, and suddenly she's driving a new Lexus and talking about a condo in Miami. Where's that money coming from? I thought about my sister, 2 years younger, always in my shadow. She'd resented my marriage to Richard from the beginning, not because she didn't like him, but because she did. I caught her flirting with him at our wedding reception, laughing too loud at his jokes, touching his arm. I dismissed it as harmless. 32 years later, I wasn't so sure. I'm having lunch with her Tuesday, I said. She wants to discuss Mum's estate. Mum's been dead for 5 years. Exactly. Saturday morning, Sophie called. Mom, I'm coming home next weekend for Dad's birthday. Can you help me plan something? Richard's birthday. I'd forgotten. 63 years old, and I'd been planning his parties since he turned 27. The first one was in our studio apartment in Queens. 12 guests. A cake I baked myself because we couldn't afford a bakery. Last year, I rented a yacht. Of course, sweetheart. What did you have in mind? I was thinking something intimate, just family. Maybe dinner at the house? Something in her voice sounded rehearsed. Too bright, too eager. My daughter was a terrible liar. She'd gotten that from me. That sounds perfect. Who should I invite? Well, Tyler and his girlfriend. Chloe, obviously. Lucas, if he can fly down. And maybe Aunt Diane. There it was. The setup. Diane? She hasn't come to a family dinner in 2 years. I know, but Dad mentioned he'd been talking to her lately. He thought it would be nice to reconnect. Dad mentioned. Dad thought. Every sentence started with him. Sophie, honey, is everything okay? You sound a little tense. I'm fine. Just busy with work. The gallery's been crazy. She paused, and I heard something in the background. A male voice, muffled. Mom, I have to go. I'll call you later about the menu, okay? Love you. She hung up before I could respond. Chloe was watching me from the kitchen doorway. Let me guess. She's planning a family event that conveniently puts you in a room with all of Dad's allies. Richard's birthday dinner. Next Saturday. The timing isn't a coincidence. No, it isn't. I thought about the 60-day timeline in Veronica Shaw's email. Phase 2. Removal from primary residence. What better setting than a family gathering? Witnesses to whatever meltdown they were planning to provoke. Documentation of the unstable wife who ruined her husband's birthday. I need to see Sophie, I said, face to face, without your father knowing. Mom, if she's recording your conversations, I know. I looked at my daughter, my practical, skeptical daughter, who'd driven 4 hours to stand beside me. That's why I need to be careful about what I say and what I find out. The lunch with Diane was at the grill in Manhattan. Her choice. Expensive, crowded, impossible to have a private conversation. Exactly what I expected. She was already seated when I arrived, martini in hand, wearing a silk blouse I'd never seen before. Her mess, if I had to guess, $3,000 minimum. Livy! She stood to kiss my cheek, leaving a smear of coral lipstick. You look tired. Is everything okay? Just adjusting to an empty nest. Lucas went back to school. Oh, right. The knee thing. She waved dismissively. Kids bounce back. Richard always says you worry too much. Richard always says. I ordered sparkling water. Diane raised an eyebrow. No wine. That's unlike you. I'm driving. You took a car service. I might walk around after. Clear my head. She studied me for a moment, and I saw something flicker behind her eyes. Calculation. Assessment. The same look she'd had when we were teenagers, and she was trying to figure out if I'd noticed her borrowing my clothes without asking. So, she said, leaning forward, Mom's estate. What about it? I found some paperwork in storage. Old bank statements, some jewelry inventories. I think there might be accounts we missed. Our mother died with $47,000 in savings and a paid-off condo in New Jersey. We'd split everything equally 5 years ago. There were no hidden accounts, no forgotten jewelry. Diane knew this. I knew this. What kind of accounts? I'm not sure yet. I was hoping you might remember something. Mom always told you things she didn't tell me. A hint of old bitterness crept into her voice. Her favorite daughter and all that. Diane, Mom loved us both equally. Did she? She took a long sip of her martini. Because I remember her paying for your wedding dress, but not mine. I remember her co-signing Richard's first business loan. I remember a lot of things that weren't exactly equal. This was the wound she'd been nursing for 3 decades. Our mother had helped Richard's business in 1992 because Diane's husband at the time was a gambling addict who would have squandered any investment. Mom was being practical, not playing favorites. But Diane had never seen it that way. Is that what this is about? I asked. Old grievances? I just think it's interesting. You got the successful husband, the big house, the perfect life. And what did I get? 2 divorces and a bankruptcy. Diane, I'm sorry things have been hard for you. Are you? She set down her glass. Because you've never offered to help. Not once. Richard's worth over $1 billion and you couldn't spare anything for your own sister? Please. I thought about the $50,000 I'd sent her after her second divorce. The $30,000 for her son's rehab. The countless smaller amounts over the years. Always given quietly. Never mentioned again. Did she not remember? Or had she convinced herself it never happened? I've helped when I could. Not enough. She flagged down the waiter. I'll have another martini. And she'll have. She looked at me expectantly. Come on, Liv. 1 glass of wine won't kill you. You need to relax. The trap was so obvious it was almost insulting. Get me drinking. Get me emotional. Document the unstable sister who couldn't handle a simple lunch. Just the water for me. Diane's smile tightened. Suit yourself. We ate our salads in uncomfortable silence. She tried twice more to bring up old grievances, the college fund, the inheritance, the perceived slight stretching back to childhood. Each time, I deflected. Each time, her frustration grew. Finally, over coffee, she played her card. I've been talking to Richard, she said casually. He's worried about you. Is he? He says you've been distant, forgetful, that you had some kind of episode last month. Episode. The word landed like a slap. What episode? He didn't give details. Just said he's concerned. We both are. She reached across across the table and took my hand. Livy, if something's wrong, if you're struggling, you can tell me. I'm your sister. I looked at her hand on mine, the manicured nails, the new tennis bracelet, the sister who'd sold me out for, what? A monthly check? A promise of something bigger when the divorce went through. Nothing's wrong, Diane. I'm fine. You don't seem fine. You seem paranoid. Paranoid. There it was. Another word for the dossier. I'm just tired. Like I said. She pulled back, disappointed. Well, if you change your mind. Richard gave me his therapist's number. Dr. Abrams is supposed to be excellent. Dr. Abrams, the same therapist Richard kept suggesting. The one whose notes would inevitably end up in Veronica Shaw's file. I'll think about it. I paid the check. $347 for 2 salads and Diane's martinis. And we parted with air kisses and promises to do this again soon. I walked 3 blocks before I let myself feel anything. Then I ducked into a Starbucks bathroom and cried for 15 minutes. Chloe was waiting when I got back to Palm Beach. She had her laptop open, spreadsheets covering the kitchen table. I found something. I sat down, still shaky from the lunch. What? Dad's corporate credit card statements. I have access through Tyler's account. He gave me the login years ago for some taxing and never changed the password. She turned the screen toward me. Look at this. Monthly payments to something called Phoenix Consulting Group. $8,000 a month for the past 5 years. Phoenix Consulting? It's a shell company. I traced it back through 3 different LLCs. Guess who's the sole beneficiary? She didn't need to say the name. I already knew. Diane, $8,000 a month. That's $480,000 over 5 years. Chloe sat back. He's been paying her to spy on you, Mom, for half a decade. The betrayal was total now. My husband, my son, my sister. How many others? How deep did this go? There's more, Chloe said, and something in her voice made me go cold. I talked to Sophie yesterday. Just casual stuff, catching up. And she said something weird. What? She asked if I'd noticed you acting strange lately. She used that exact phrase. And when I asked what she meant, she got flustered and changed the subject. Chloe closed the laptop. Mom, I think Dad has her recording your conversations. What? Sophie would never. Not on purpose. She probably thinks she's helping. Dad's convinced her you're sick. That documenting your behavior is for your own good. Chloe's eyes were hard. He's using her the same way he's using Aunt Diane. The same way he's using Tyler. He's turned our whole family into surveillance. Thought about Sophie's phone call. The brightness in her voice. The rehearsed quality. The way she'd steered the conversation toward Diane. Toward the birthday dinner. Toward all the things Richard wanted documented. My baby girl. My sunshine. Being used as a weapon against me. We need proof, I said. Not suspicions. Proof. I know. Chloe opened her laptop again. That's why I'm going to find out who Veronica Shaw really is. And exactly what Dad paid her to do. She started typing, and I watched my daughter work. This fierce young woman I'd raised to be better than me. Smarter, harder, less trusting of the people who were supposed to love her. Somewhere in this house, maybe in Richard's office, maybe in a safe I didn't know existed, there was a dossier with my name on it. Photographs taken out of context. Medical records twisted into evidence. A carefully constructed portrait of an unstable woman who couldn't be trusted with her own life. But there was also a paper trail. Payments to Diane, contracts with Veronica Shaw, emails documenting a conspiracy to steal everything I'd helped build. Richard thought he was the predator in this marriage. He was about to find out he'd been hunting the wrong prey. The locks were changed on a Thursday. I know because I'd spent the morning at Chloe's apartment in Brooklyn, reviewing the research she'd compiled on Veronica Shaw. The woman had a pattern. 12 high-net-worth divorces in the past 7 years, all representing husbands, all resulting in wives receiving less than 20% of marital assets. Her specialty was what she called narrative construction, building a story of instability so convincing that judges, mediators, and even the wives themselves started to believe it. I flew back to Palm Beach that afternoon, exhausted but focused. I had a plan now. Evidence to gather, moves to make. I would beat Richard at his own game. Then I tried to open my front door. The key didn't work. I stood there for a full minute, turning it left, right, jiggling it the way you do when you think the lock is just stuck. But it wasn't stuck. The lock was new. Brushed nickel instead of the brass I picked out 14 years ago. Mrs. Brennan? I turned. Eduardo, the head of our security team, was walking toward me from the guardhouse. He'd worked for us for 11 years. I'd attended his daughter's quinceañera last spring. Eduardo, what's going on? The lock. I'm sorry, ma'am. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Mr. Brennan's orders. You're not authorized to enter the property. The words didn't make sense. Not authorized. This was my home. I'd designed every room, chosen every tile, planted the bougainvillea that climbed the eastern wall. I'd raised 4 children behind these doors. There must be a mistake. No mistake, ma'am. Eduardo shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Brennan said to give you this. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed no signature. Per advisement of legal counsel, you are hereby notified that your access to the property at 1847 Ocean Boulevard, Palm Beach, FL, has been suspended pending resolution of ongoing domestic matters. Personal belongings have been placed in storage at Safekeep Facility, Unit 247, 3400 Southern Boulevard. Access code 7719. Any attempt to enter the property will be considered trespassing and will be reported to local authorities. I read it 3 times. The words blurred together. Suspended. Trespassing. Authorities. My things, I said. My clothes, my jewelry, my... Everything's at the storage unit, ma'am. Mr. Brennan was very thorough. Thorough, yes. Richard was always thorough. I looked at the house, my house, and saw the curtains move in the upstairs window. Richard's office. He was watching. He wanted to see my reaction. I thought about screaming, pounding on the door, calling the police. But that's what they wanted. That's what the dossier needed. Footage of the unstable wife causing a scene, threatening her husband, proving she couldn't control herself. So I smiled. I smiled at the security camera mounted above the door. I smiled at the window where Richard was watching. I smiled as I walked back to my rental car with steady steps and a straight spine. I didn't cry until I was 3 blocks away. The storage unit smelled like cardboard and mildew. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. My entire life had been packed into a 10 by 15-foot concrete box. They'd been careless, or maybe deliberate, in how they'd packed. My wedding dress was crammed into a garbage bag. Photo albums were stacked under boxes of kitchen utensils. My grandmother's china, the set I'd inherited when she died, was wrapped in newspaper and shoved into a corner, but it was all there. Every piece of my 32-year marriage reduced to inventory. I found my jewelry box buried under winter coats. My engagement ring was inside, the 2 3-carat diamond Richard had proposed with at the top of the Empire State Building in 1989. I'd worn it every day for 32 years. I took it off and dropped it in my purse. Then I found the manila folder. It was tucked between 2 boxes of books, unmarked, unremarkable, but I knew immediately what it was. The dossier, the one Veronica Shaw had compiled, the one Richard had been building for years. Someone had left it here for me to find. I sat on a plastic storage bin and opened the folder. 43 pages. My life dissected. The first section was medical records. My prescription for Xanax in 2019, after my mother's death, highlighted, annotated with notes like history of dependence and potential substance abuse. My annual physical from 2021, where I'd mentioned feeling tired, reframed as complaints of chronic fatigue, possible depression. A therapy session from 2018, when I told my counselor I sometimes felt invisible in my marriage, quoted out of context as patient expresses feelings of dissociation and detachment from reality. The second section was photographs. Me at Tyler's wedding, champagne glass raised, eyes half closed, captioned public intoxication. Me at a charity gala, leaning on Richard's arm for balance because my heels were too high, captioned difficulty walking, coordination issues. Me at the beach in the Hamptons, alone, staring at the ocean, captioned isolating behavior, signs of withdrawal. The third section was witness statements. I stopped breathing when I saw the names. Diane Palmer, my sister. 4 pages of observations spanning 3 years. Olivia has become increasingly erratic. I've witnessed her consume excessive amounts of alcohol. She once got lost driving to my house, a route she's taken hundreds of times. I believe she may be experiencing early cognitive decline. Tyler Brennan, my son. 2 pages. More hesitant in tone, but no less damaging. My mother has always been anxious, but lately it seems worse. She's been forgetful, missing appointments. My father has expressed concern about her mental state, and I have to admit I share some of those concerns. And then, at the very end, a statement from Sophie, my sunshine. My mother sometimes says things that don't make sense. She gets confused about dates and times. I've noticed her mood swings getting worse. I love her, but I'm worried about her. Dad says she needs help, and I think he's right. The statement was dated 3 weeks ago, around the time Richard started using Lucas's room for phone calls, around the time the baby monitor started recording. Sophie didn't know she was being used. She thought she was helping. Richard had convinced her that documenting my behavior was an act of love, protecting her mother from herself. I closed the folder. I sat in that storage unit for 2 hours, surrounded by the fragments of my life, and I felt something shift inside me. The grief was still there, the betrayal, the rage, but underneath it all, something colder was taking root. Richard had spent years building a cage around me. He turned my family into informants, my memories into weapons, my vulnerabilities into evidence. He planned this with the precision of a military campaign, but he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated me. I pulled out my phone and called Chloe. Mom, are you okay? I've been trying to reach you for hours. I'm fine. I'm at the storage unit. A storage unit? What storage? Your father changed the locks. I can't go home. Silence. Then, I'm booking a flight right now. No, stay in New York. I need you to do something for me. Anything. I looked at the folder in my lap, the dossier, the weapon Richard had built to destroy me. I need you to find out everything about Veronica Shaw's other clients, the 12 divorces she's handled. I want to know if any of those wives fought back, and if so, how. Mom, what are you planning? I'm planning to win. Chloe found me a hotel, the Colony on Worth Avenue, $800 a night, but I still had access to one credit card, a personal Amex that Richard had apparently forgotten about, probably because I rarely used it. I checked in under my maiden name, Olivia Caldwell. It felt strange to write it, like putting on clothes that no longer fit, but it also felt right. Olivia Caldwell had existed before Richard Brennan. She could exist after him. The hotel room was beautiful. Ocean view, white linens, fresh flowers on the nightstand. I sat on the bed and stared at the wall for a long time. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. Mom, where are you? Dad said you left. Is everything okay? I typed back, I'm fine, sweetheart. Just needed some space. I'll call you tomorrow. Another buzz, this time from Tyler. Mom, Dad told me what happened. I think you should come home and talk to him. This doesn't have to be a big deal. Come home. As if I could. I didn't respond. At midnight, my phone rang. Richard. I let it go to voicemail. His message was 3 minutes long. Concerned. Reasonable. The voice of a loving husband worried about his unstable wife. Liv, I don't know what's going on with you, but this isn't the answer. Running away, hiding in hotels, this isn't like you. I've talked to Dr. Abrams, and he agrees that you might be experiencing some kind of episode. Please, just come home. Let's talk about this like adults. I love you, and I want to help you. I listened to it twice. The second time, I noticed the pauses, the careful phrasing, the way he emphasized certain words. Episode. Running away. Not like you. As if he knew the message might be played for someone else later. He was still building the case, even now. Even with me locked out of my own home, sleeping in a hotel room with a suitcase full of hastily packed clothes, he was still constructing the narrative of the crazy wife. I deleted the message. Then I called the front desk and asked them to hold all calls. The next morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. Old habit. Richard liked breakfast at 6:30, and I'd spent 32 years making sure it was ready. But Richard wasn't here, and I didn't have to make anyone breakfast. I ordered room service. Eggs Benedict, fresh squeezed orange juice, coffee with real cream. I ate slowly, tasting each bite, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten a meal without watching the clock. o'clock, without calculating when Richard would need something, without planning the rest of the day around his schedule. At 8 o'clock, Chloe called. I found something. 3 of Veronica Shaw's cases. The wives hired their own investigators afterward. One of them got her settlement overturned. Her name is Margaret Holloway. She lives in Connecticut now. And Mom, Chloe paused. She's willing to talk to you. How did you find her? I have my ways. I could hear the smile in her daughter's voice. She's expecting your call at 10. I'll send you her number. I hung up and looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired, older than 56, but her eyes were clear. For the first time in 32 years, I wasn't trying to be what Richard needed. I wasn't managing his moods, anticipating his demands, smoothing over his rough edges. I was just Olivia. I thought about the dossier, the photographs, the statements, the years of surveillance dressed up as concern. Richard had documented everything I'd done wrong, every glass of wine, every forgotten appointment, every moment of weakness. But he'd forgotten to document what he'd done, the affairs I'd suspected but never confronted, the business trips that lasted too long, the phone calls he took in private, the way he'd slowly, systematically isolated me from my own family until they saw me through his eyes instead of their own. I had 32 years of memories, and I was going to use them. At 9:55, I dialed Margaret Holloway's number. Mrs. Brennan. Her voice was warm, steady, the voice of a woman who'd survived something terrible. I've been waiting for your call. You know who I am? I know exactly who you are. I was you, 6 years ago. Same playbook, same tactics, same woman running the operation. She paused. Veronica Shaw destroyed my first marriage, but I destroyed her case on appeal, and I'd be happy to show you how. I gripped the phone tighter. What do I need to do? First, you need to understand something. Men like your husband, they're not evil. They're just convinced they're the only ones who matter. Everything they do, they justify. The surveillance, the manipulation, the isolation, it's all for your own good in their minds. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. The key isn't proving he's wrong, it's proving you're right. How? You start by documenting everything, every conversation, every interaction, every move he made. You build your own dossier, but yours will be the truth. Margaret's voice hardened. And then you find the one thing he can't explain away, the one piece of evidence that proves he's not the concerned husband. He's the predator. I thought about the baby monitor, the recording I'd saved on my iPad. Richard's voice, calm and strategic, discussing how to prove his wife was crazy. I think I already have it. Good. Then the next step is finding a lawyer who isn't afraid of billionaires. I know someone. Her name is Rachel Chen. She's expensive, but she's worth it. Margaret paused. And Olivia, one more thing. Yes, your children, the ones who turned against you. Don't hate them. They're victims too. Richard's been poisoning them for years, and they don't even know it. When the truth comes out, and it will, they're going to need their mother. I thought about Sophie's statement in the dossier, the words she'd written, thinking she was helping. The daughter I'd raised turned into a weapon against me. I don't hate them, I said. I'm going to save them. That night, I made a list. Everything I needed to do, everyone I needed to contact, every piece of evidence I needed to gather. At the top of the list, I wrote 3 words. Make him pay. But then I crossed them out and wrote something else. Take back my life. I fell asleep with a list on my pillow and the dossier on the nightstand. Tomorrow, I would start fighting. But tonight, for the first time in months, I slept without dreaming of Richard. Rachel Chen's office was on the 42nd floor of a building in Midtown Manhattan. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a view that cost more per square foot than most people's mortgages. She was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a handshake that meant business. Margaret Holloway speaks highly of you, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. She says you have a recording. I pulled out my iPad and pressed play. Rachel listened to the entire 11 minutes without expression. When it ended, she leaned back in her chair and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted dinner. Your husband is an idiot. Excuse me? He's been planning this for years, building a case with medical records and witness statements, hiring Veronica Shaw, and he forgot about a baby monitor? She shook her head. Men like Richard think they're untouchable. That arrogance is going to cost him. What do I do now? First, we secure your assets. That credit card you've been using, how much is the limit? 50,000. Max it out today. Put it somewhere Richard can't touch. A separate account under your maiden name. Withdraw cash if you have to. She made a note on her legal pad. Second, we need to document everything. The lock change, the storage unit, his voicemail, every piece of evidence that shows he's the aggressor, not you. I have the dossier too. Someone left it in the storage unit. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Someone left it? Who? I don't know. Maybe one of his staff. Maybe someone with a conscience. She's interesting. She tapped her pen against the desk. That dossier is actually helpful. It shows premeditation. He wasn't reacting to your behavior. He was manufacturing a narrative. Any competent judge will see through it. And Veronica Shaw? Rachel's expression hardened. Veronica Shaw is a problem. She's good at what she does. Too good. She's never lost a case, and she has connections everywhere. Judges, mediators, court reporters. If she's running point on Richard's divorce strategy, we need to neutralize her before trial. How? That's where it gets complicated. Rachel stood and walked to her window, looking out at the city below. Shaw operates in a gray area. What she does isn't technically illegal. She's not fabricating evidence, just curating it, presenting facts in the most damaging light. But if we could prove she crossed a line, advised Richard to break the law, tampered with documents, coordinated witness statements, we could get her disqualified, maybe even disbarred. She's a lawyer, licensed in New York and Florida. Her practice is technically family law consulting, but everyone knows what she really does. Rachel turned back to face me. The problem is getting proof. Shaw is careful. She doesn't leave paper trails, and her clients are loyal. They have too much to lose if she goes down. I thought about the recording. Richard's voice, casual and confident, discussing strategy with Veronica. They talked about the dossier, the timeline, the plan to remove me from my home, but they hadn't discussed anything explicitly illegal. What if I could get her to talk? I asked. Rachel's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? What if I approached her as a a potential client, a wealthy wife looking to preemptively divorce her husband. Get her to explain her methods, her strategies. Record the whole thing. That's risky. If she recognizes you, she won't. I've never met her in person. And she handles dozens of clients. There's no reason she'd connect me to Richard. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. New York is a one-party consent state. You could legally record a conversation you're part of. She sat back down, studying me. But Shaw is paranoid. She checks backgrounds, runs security. You'd need a cover story that holds up. I have one. I've been thinking about this since Margaret Holloway's call. A plan had formed, piece by piece, in the sleepless hours at the colony. I wasn't the same woman who'd folded Richard's underwear 3 weeks ago. That woman was gone. In her place was someone colder, harder, more focused than she'd ever been. I'll go in as Olivia Caldwell. Maiden name, different address, different phone number. I'll say I'm married to a real estate developer, close enough to Richard's profile that she'll be interested, different enough that she won't make a connection. And if she asks for documentation, proof of assets, I'll give her enough to seem legitimate. Bank statements from my personal account. Property records from a house I own in Connecticut. My grandmother left it to me years ago, and Richard's name isn't on the deed. Rachel, consider this. You'd be walking into the lion's den, alone. I've been living in the lion's den for 32 years. This is just the first time I'm going in with my eyes open. She smiled again, that predator's smile. I think I'm going to enjoy working with you, Mrs. Brennan. Chloe found Veronica Shaw's office address within 48 hours. Midtown, 20 blocks from Rachel Chen, a boutique firm called Shaw Strategic Partners. The website featured stock photos of confident women and vague language about protecting your interests in complex family situations. I spent 3 days preparing. I bought new clothes. Expensive, but understated. The kind of outfit a wealthy woman would wear to discuss destroying her marriage. I practiced my story until it felt natural. I memorized details about my fictional husband, his habits, his cruelties, his suspected affairs. The morning of the meeting, I stood in front of my hotel mirror and barely recognized myself. My hair was different, shorter, styled at a salon on Madison Avenue. My makeup was heavier than I usually wore. The woman staring back at me looked like someone who'd never folded laundry in her life. Good. I took a cab to Shaw Strategic Partners at 10:45. The receptionist was polished and professional, with the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Caldwell, Miss Shaw is expecting you. Right this way. The office was exactly what I'd imagined. Grey walls, grey furniture, a diffuser pumping eucalyptus into the air, uncomfortable designer chairs positioned to make visitors feel small. And behind the desk, Veronica Shaw herself. She was beautiful in a cold way. Mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back severely, eyes that assessed and calculated in the same instant. She wore a white silk blouse and pearl earrings, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm but brief. Mrs. Caldwell, please, sit. I sat in one of the uncomfortable chairs and crossed my legs. In my purse, hidden in an interior pocket, my phone was recording. Thank you for meeting with me, I said. I know you're selective about your clients. I am. She didn't smile. Tell me about your situation. I launched into my prepared story, a marriage of 25 years, a husband who controlled everything, the money, the properties, the social calendar, suspected affairs, emotional manipulation, a prenuptial agreement that was ironclad unless I could prove fault. Veronica listened without interrupting, making occasional notes on a leather-bound pad. When I finished, she set down her pen. Your husband sounds like a classic narcissist, charming on the surface, controlling underneath. Let me guess, he's convinced everyone around you that he's the reasonable one. Yes, even my own family believes him over me. That's by design. She leaned forward, and for a moment I saw something almost like sympathy in her eyes. Men like your husband spend years building their narrative. By the time the wife wakes up, it's too late. Everyone already believes she's crazy. My stomach tightened. She was describing Richard. She was describing what had been done to me. So what do I do? You beat him at his own game. Veronica's voice hardened. You start documenting now, before he knows you're planning anything. You build your own case. Not lies, but carefully selected truths. You find the skeletons in his closet and make sure the right people see them. What kind of skeletons? Affairs are useful. Financial improprieties are better. Anything that makes him look like a villain. She paused. I can help you find them. I have resources, investigators, forensic accountants, people who know how to dig. And what happens when he fights back? When he tries to make me look unstable? Veronica smiled. It was the coldest smile I'd ever seen. We make sure his version of events never sees the light of day. Witnesses can be persuaded to reconsider their statement. Medical records can be contextualized. The key is controlling the narrative before it goes to court. Persuaded how? Let's just say that everyone has something they'd rather keep private. A sister with a gambling problem, a son with a DUI that was quietly expunged, a business partner with tax issues. She shrugged. Information is leverage. The more you have, the less your husband can hurt you. I felt sick. This was the woman Richard had hired. This was what she did. Not just build cases, but destroy people, threaten them, blackmail them, all under the guise of protecting her client's interests. And if he's already started, if he already has a dossier on me? Veronica's eyes flickered, just for a second, but I caught it. Has someone been documenting your behavior? I think so. My sister's been asking strange questions. My daughter's been acting differently around me. Then we need to move fast. The longer his narrative has to solidify, the harder it is to counter. She pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. My standard retainer is $150,000. That covers initial strategy, investigation, and witness management. Additional fees apply for trial preparation and expert witnesses. $150,000. The same amount Richard had paid. The same package. The same playbook. That's a lot of money. It's an investment. My clients typically recover 3 to 5 times my fee in improved settlement terms. She slid the folder across the desk. Take a look at the contract. My references are impeccable. I opened the folder and pretended to read, but my mind was racing. I had what I needed. Veronica admitting to witness intimidation, to contextualizing medical records, to using personal information as leverage. It It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was enough to show her methods. But then I saw something that stopped me cold. A name on her client list, partially visible beneath another document. Brennan R. She kept records, detailed records, client names, case summaries, strategies employed. If I could get access to that file. Is something wrong, Mrs. Caldwell? I looked up. Veronica was watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. No, I was just, this is a lot to process. Take your time. I don't pressure clients into decisions. She stood, extending her hand. Think it over. Call me when you're ready to move forward. I shook her hand, tucked the folder into my purse, and walked out of her office on steady legs. I didn't breathe until I was in the elevator, doors closing, alone. Then I pulled out my phone and checked the recording. 43 minutes. Clear audio. Every word she'd said. It wasn't enough to destroy her, but it was a start. That night, I met Chloe at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. I played her the recording, watching her face as she listened to Veronica describe her methods. Jesus, Chloe whispered when it ended. This woman is a monster. She's Dad's monster, and she keeps records. I saw a file with his name on it. Chloe's eyes widened. If we could get that file, we'd have everything. The strategy, the timeline, the people involved. Proof that Dad orchestrated this from the beginning. How do we get it? I'd been thinking about this since I left Veronica's office. The file was in her desk drawer. Her office had security cameras, but the building's main entrance didn't require sign-in after hours. She kept late hours, according to her assistant, often staying past 9 p.m. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. Chloe grabbed my hand. Mom, this is dangerous. If she catches you, she won't. You don't know that. You're not a spy. You're not trained for this. I looked at my daughter, my fierce, practical daughter who'd driven 4 hours and spent weeks digging through financial records to help me. She deserved the truth. Chloe, 3 weeks ago, I was a housewife. I folded laundry and planned dinner parties and told myself that my marriage was fine. And then I found out that the man I'd loved for 32 years was building a case to destroy me, to take everything I'd helped build and leave me with nothing. I squeezed her hand. I'm not a spy. I'm not trained, but I'm also not the woman I was 3 weeks ago. That woman would have cried and begged and tried to fix things. This woman is going to fight. Chloe was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, then we fight together. What do you need? I need to know everything about Veronica Shaw's schedule, when she leaves, when she arrives, who else works in that office, and I need to find someone who can help me get through a locked door without leaving evidence. Mom, you're talking about breaking and entering. I'm talking about getting my life back. I met her eyes. Are you with me? She didn't hesitate. Always. I never had to break into Veronica Shaw's office. Tyler did it for me. He showed up at the colony 3 days after my meeting with Veronica, looking like he hadn't slept in a week. His suit was wrinkled, his tie loose, and there were dark circles under his eyes that made him look 10 years older than 32. Mom, his voice cracked on the single syllable. I need to talk to you. I let him in. He stood in the middle of my hotel room, hands shaking, and pulled a manila folder from his briefcase. I found this in Dad's safe, the one in his office. I wasn't supposed to. He never gave me the combination, but I figured it out. He held the folder out to me like it was burning his hands. I didn't know, Mom. I swear to God, I didn't know. I took the folder. It was thicker than the dossier I'd found in the storage unit, at least 70 pages. The label read, Shaw Strategic Partners, Brennan Matter, Confidential. Tyler, what is this? Everything. His voice broke. The whole plan, from the beginning. I sat on the bed and started reading. The first document was a contract dated 18 months ago. Richard had hired Veronica Shaw in March of the previous year, not in response to anything I'd done, but preemptively. The stated goal was strategic positioning for potential dissolution of marriage with maximum asset protection. He'd been planning this for a year and a half, before I'd given him any reason, before I'd done anything wrong. The second document was worse. A memo from Veronica outlining the instability narrative. It detailed specific incidents to manufacture, specific buttons to push, specific people to recruit. Diane's name was there, with a note. Sister has financial vulnerabilities. Recommend monthly stipend in exchange for documentation and testimony. Suggested amount, $8,000. Tyler's name was there too. Son works in family business. Financial dependence creates natural loyalty. Recommend gradual introduction to concerns about mother's mental state. Do not reveal full strategy. Maintain plausible deniability. Plausible deniability. My son had been used as a pawn, kept in the dark just enough that he could claim innocence. Mom, I'm so sorry. Tyler was crying now, tears streaming down his face. He told me you were sick. He said he was worried about you, that documenting your behavior was for your own good. I believed him. I believed my own father. I looked at my son, my firstborn, the baby I'd nursed through colic and nightmares and teenage heartbreak, and felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. How did you find out the truth? Sophie called me. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. She was crying, hysterical. She said she'd been recording your conversations, sending them to Dad, and she'd just realized what he was using them for. She found an email on his computer. He'd left his laptop open, where he was discussing her recordings with Veronica Shaw, planning how to use them in court. Sophie, my sunshine. She'd finally seen the truth. Where is she now? At Chloe's apartment. She's a mess, Mom. She thinks you'll never forgive her. I closed my eyes. My family, fractured and bleeding, scattered across the eastern seaboard. Richard had done this. Richard had turned us against each other, used our love as a weapon, poisoned everything he touched. But Sophie had woken up, and Tyler was here, crying in my hotel room, holding evidence that could destroy his father. Maybe there was still something to save. There's more, Tyler said. He reached into his briefcase again and pulled out a flash drive. The safe had a laptop, a separate one, not his main computer. It had everything. Emails with Veronica, financial records, recordings of phone calls. I copied all of it. Tyler, I know what it is. His jaw tightened. It's enough to destroy him, and I don't care anymore. He was going to take everything from you, Mom. Your home, your money, your reputation, your family. He was going to leave you with nothing, and he was going to make me help him do it. He set the flash drive on the nightstand. I won't be his weapon. Not anymore. We met at Chloe's apartment that night. All four of Tyler, Chloe, Sophie, and me. Lucas was still at NYU, but we'd called him earlier. Explained everything. He'd listened in stunned silence, then said he'd fly home if we needed him. Sophie couldn't look at me when I walked in. She sat on Chloe's couch, curled into herself like she was trying to disappear, and when I sat down beside her, she flinched. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The words came out in a rush, tangled with sobs. I didn't know. He said you were getting worse, that you needed help, that the recordings would help your doctors understand what was happening. I thought I was helping you. I thought. I pulled her into my arms. I know, sweetheart. I know. She cried against my shoulder for a long time. My baby girl, 24 years old, who'd been manipulated by her own father into betraying her mother. Richard had used her love against her, twisted her concern into a weapon. She was as much a victim as I was. It's not your fault, I said, stroking her hair. None of this is your fault. But I said those things in the statement. I said you were confused, that your mood swings were getting worse. You said what he told you to say, what he made you believe. I pulled back and looked at her face, blotchy and swollen with tears. Sophie, your father is a very convincing man. He convinced me for 32 years. Don't blame yourself for being fooled by someone who spent his whole life fooling people. Tyler was pacing by the window, still wound tight with anger. What do we do now? We have enough evidence to bury him, but if we go public... We don't go public, I said. Not yet. Chloe frowned. Mom, you have everything. The recordings, the emails, the financial records. Rachel Chen said it's enough to get Veronica Shaw disbarred. Why wouldn't we use it? Because I don't want to destroy your father. The words surprised me, even as I said them. I want to beat him. There's a difference. They all stared at me. Richard expects me to react emotionally. That's what the whole strategy was built on. The unstable wife who can't control herself. If I come out swinging, if I try to humiliate him publicly, he'll spin it. He'll say I'm proving his point. I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the Brooklyn skyline. But if I'm calm, strategic, cold, if I beat him at his own game, he won't know what to do. What does that look like? Tyler asked. It looks like a meeting, face to face. I show him what we have and give him a choice. A quiet divorce with a fair settlement, or a very public trial where all of this comes out. His reputation, his business relationships, his standing in the community, all of it destroyed. You think he'll take the deal? I think he'll try to negotiate. He'll bluster, threaten, try to find leverage. I turned back to face my children. But he won't have any, because I'm not the woman he married anymore. I'm not afraid of him. Sophie wiped her eyes. Mom, what about Aunt Diane? She was part of this too. The question landed like a stone in my chest. Diane, my sister, my blood. I know. Are you going to confront her? I thought about the lunches, the questions, the 5 years of monthly payments. Diane had sold me for $8,000 a month. She documented my behavior, reported my conversations, testified to my instability, all for money. All because she resented a life she thought I didn't deserve. Yes, I said, but not yet. Diane is a symptom, not the disease. Richard is the one who corrupted her, who used her weaknesses against both of us. I'll deal with her after I deal with him. Tyler checked his watch. Dad's expecting me at the office tomorrow morning. He wants to discuss next steps in the divorce strategy. He laughed bitterly. He has no idea I copied his files. Good, keep it that way. Go to work, act normal. Don't give him any reason to suspect. And then I call him tomorrow afternoon. I tell him we need to talk, just the two of us. No lawyers, no witnesses. Just a conversation between a husband and wife. Where? I thought about this. It needed to be somewhere neutral, somewhere without security cameras or staff who might report back to him. Somewhere I could control the environment. The house in the Hamptons, we haven't opened it for the season yet. It'll be empty. Chloe looked worried. Mom, are you sure that's safe? Being alone with him? I won't be alone. I looked at Tyler. You'll be nearby, close enough to come if I need you, far enough that he won't know you're there. Tyler nodded slowly. And if he tries something, he won't. Richard's not violent. He's calculating. He'll try to talk his way out, to charm me, to find an angle. That's who he is. I smiled, and it felt cold on my face. But he's never tried to charm someone who knows all his secrets. That's a very different game. The call to Richard was brief. Liv, where are you? I've been worried sick. I'm sure you have. I kept my voice flat, emotionless. We need to talk. Tomorrow, 3 o'clock, the Hamptons house. Silence on the line. I could almost hear him recalculating, trying to figure out what I knew. Of course, I'll be there. Liv, whatever's going on, we can work through it. I love you. 3 o'clock. I hung up. That night, I lay in my hotel bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow, I would face the man who'd tried to destroy me. The man I'd loved for 32 years, who'd used that love as a weapon. The man who turned my family into spies and my memories into evidence. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't afraid. I was ready. But as I closed my eyes, one thought kept circling back. Tyler had chosen me over his father. He'd stolen files, risked his career, his inheritance, everything Richard had promised him. He'd done it because it was right. Tomorrow, I would ask him to do something harder. I would ask him to testify. Not publicly, not unless Richard forced my hand. But I needed Tyler willing to stand up in court, to look a judge in the eye and say, my father orchestrated this. I have proof. It would cost him everything. His job, his inheritance, his relationship with Richard forever. But it would set him free. The question was whether he was ready to pay that price. The Hamptons house looked smaller than I remembered. I arrived an hour early, walking through rooms I decorated 15 years ago, touching furniture I'd chosen, standing at windows that framed views I'd fallen in love with. This house was supposed to be our sanctuary, the place where Richard and I would grow old together, watching grandchildren run across the lawn, hosting summer parties that lasted until the stars came out. Now it was just another battlefield. Tyler texted at 2:45. I'm parked at the end of the driveway. Can't see the house from here, but I can be there in 2 minutes. I texted back, thank you. 3 simple words, but they meant everything. At exactly 3 I heard Richard's car pull up, the crunch of gravel, the slam of a door, footsteps on the porch. Then the front door opened and there he was. My husband of 32 years. years. The man who'd built an empire on my sacrifices. The man who tried to destroy me. Liv, he smiled. That same charming smile that had won me over in 1989. You look good. Better than I expected. Thank you. He walked into the living room, looking around like he was assessing the property for sale. I've missed this place. We should open it up more often. Maybe this summer, after all this. Unpleasantness is behind us. There won't be this summer. Not for us. His smile faltered, just for a second. Liv, I know you're upset. What happened with the house? The locks? That was a mistake. My lawyers overreacted. I've already told them to restore your access. How generous. I mean it. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I let him take it. His palm was warm, familiar. I'd held this hand at our wedding, in delivery rooms, at funerals. I'd held it through 32 years of life. I pulled away. Richard, I know everything. He blinked. What do you mean? I mean I know about Veronica Shaw, about the $150,000 you paid her, about the dossier you've been building for years. I walked to the coffee table and picked up the manila folder I'd placed there earlier. I've read every page. Something shifted in his eyes. The charm flickered, replaced by calculation. Where did you get that? Does it matter? Liv, I can't explain. Can you explain why you hired a consultant to prove I was mentally unstable 18 months ago, before I'd given you any reason to want a divorce? I opened the folder, flipping to a highlighted page. Here's what Veronica wrote. Client wishes to position for divorce with maximum asset protection. Recommend building instability narrative over 12 to 24 months. That's dated March of last year, Richard. A year and a half ago. He was quiet. Can you explain why you paid my sister $8,000 a month to spy on me? To document my incidents and testify to my mental decline? I turned to another page. It's all here. The payments, the instructions, the talking points you gave her. Diane was worried about you. You were just using her. The same way you used Tyler. The same way you used Sophie. I closed the folder and looked at him. Our daughter. Richard. You convinced her to record my conversations. You made her believe she was helping me, when really she was building the case to take everything I have. I was trying to protect the family's assets. You were trying to leave me with nothing. My voice cracked, and I took a breath. No, I wouldn't give him the emotional reaction he wanted. I wouldn't be the unstable wife. I steadied myself. I have the emails, Richard. The recordings of your phone calls with Veronica. The financial records showing every payment you've made. I have enough evidence to destroy you in court, and more importantly, to destroy you socially. Your business partners, your golf buddies, your charity boards, how do you think they'll react when they find out you spent 2 years trying to gaslight your wife into looking crazy? Richard's mask slipped completely now. I could see the real man underneath, cold, calculating, furious. What do you want? A fair divorce, 50% of marital assets, plus the house in Palm Beach, the one I designed, the one I raised our children in. You keep the Manhattan apartment, the business properties, whatever else you want. I don't need all of it. I just need what's mine. That's over $600 million. I know what it is. I also know that it's significantly less than what I'd get if we went to trial. And all of this came out. I set the folder down. I'm offering you a chance to walk away with your reputation intact. That's more than you offered me. He stared at me for a long moment. I could see him calculating, the way he always did, running the numbers, weighing the risks, looking for an angle. And if I say no, then we go to trial. Your lawyer faces disbarment proceedings for her tactic. Your business partners find out how you treat your family. Your children testify against you. I paused. Tyler's already agreed to do it. He found the files in your safe. He's the one who brought them to me. Richard's face went pale. Tyler, he made his choice. The same choice Sophie made when she realized what you'd done to her. The same choice you're making right now. I stepped closer, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. You can fight me, Richard. You can drag this out for years, spend millions on lawyers, try to spin this your way, but you will lose. Not just the money, everything. Your reputation, your relationships, your children's respect, all of it. Gone. He was quiet for a long time. Outside, I could hear birds singing, waves in the distance, the sounds of a life we'd built together, now coming apart. You've changed, he said finally. Yes, the Olivia I married would have cried, begged, tried to fix things. The Olivia you married didn't know she was married to a predator. I picked up my purse from the chair. You have 48 hours to sign the settlement agreement. Rachel Chen will send it to your lawyers tonight. If I don't have a signed copy by Friday at 5 p.m., I go public with everything. I walked toward the door. Liv, I stopped, but didn't turn around. This isn't over. Yes, Richard, it is. He signed the agreement Thursday afternoon. $612 million in assets plus the Palm Beach house. The divorce would be finalized quietly. No public statements, no media coverage. In exchange, I agreed not to release the evidence against him or pursue criminal charges against Veronica Shaw. It was a compromise. Part of me wanted to destroy him completely, to watch him lose everything the way he tried to make me lose everything. But that would have meant more years in court, more lawyers, more pain. It would have meant keeping myself tied to him when all I wanted was to be free. So I took the deal. Rachel Chen called it the largest quiet divorce settlement in New York history. I called it the price of my freedom. 3 weeks later, I had lunch with Diane. She'd heard about the divorce by then. Everyone had, despite our attempts at secrecy. The story that circulated was boring. Irreconcilable differences, amicable split, mutual respect. No one knew about the dossier, the surveillance, the years of manipulation. No one except family. Olivia. Diane looked nervous as she sat down across from me. Thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either. The waiter came. She ordered a martini. I ordered water. I know you know, she said once he was gone, about the money, about what Richard asked me to do. $480,000 over 5 years. That's what our sisterhood was worth to you. She flinched. It wasn't about the money. Not entirely. Then what was it about? I was angry. Her voice cracked. You had everything, Liv. The rich husband, the beautiful house, the perfect children, and I had nothing. 2 failed marriages, a bankruptcy, a son who won't speak to me. I was drowning, and you were living in a palace, and She stopped, tears rolling down her cheeks. I wanted you to feel what I felt, just once. I looked at my sister, my baby sister, 2 years younger, who used to follow me around like a shadow, who begged me to do her hair before school dances, who cried on my shoulder after both her divorces. I'd loved her once. Maybe I still did. I'm not going to forgive you, I said. Not today. Maybe not ever. What you did, helping Richard build a case against me, testifying that I was mentally unstable, that's not something you can apologize away. I know, but I'm not going to destroy you either. I pushed an envelope across the table. That's information about a job opening at a non-profit in Boston. They're looking for an office manager. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest work, far away from here. She stared at the envelope. You're helping me? I'm giving you a chance to start over. The same chance I'm giving myself. I stood up. Take it or don't. But Diane, if I ever find out you've spoken to Richard again, if I ever hear that you've breathed a word about our family to anyone, I will release everything. The payments, the testimony, all of it. Do you understand? She nodded, tears still streaming. Goodbye, Diane. I didn't look back. Tyler quit his job at Richard's company the day after the settlement was signed. He showed up at my new apartment, a brownstone in Brooklyn Heights, 3 bedrooms, a garden in the back, with a box of his belongings and a resignation letter in his hand. I couldn't stay, he said. Not after everything. What will you do? I don't know yet. Maybe start my own firm. Maybe take some time off first. He looked around the apartment, at the boxes still waiting to be unpacked, at the fresh start taking shape around us. Mum, I need you to know something. What? I would have testified. If Dad hadn't signed, if it had gone to trial, I would have told the truth. Everything I knew, everything I'd done. He met my eyes. I know it doesn't make up for what I did before, for believing him, for helping him without even knowing what I was helping with. But I need you to know that in the end, I chose you. I pulled my son into my arms and held him the way I had when he was small, when the world was simple and I could protect him from everything. I know, I whispered. I know. Sophie moved into the Brooklyn brownstone 2 months later. She'd broken up with her boyfriend, quit her job at the gallery, and decided she needed a fresh start somewhere close to Mom. Chloe joked that I was running a halfway house for recovering Brennan. Maybe I was. Lucas came home from NYU every weekend, filling the brownstone with noise and laundry and the smell of whatever he was cooking that week. He'd taken over the kitchen entirely, experimenting with recipes he found online, leaving dishes in the sink that he swore he'd wash later. For the first time in 32 years, my home felt like mine. I saw Richard once more, 6 months after the divorce was finalized. It was at a charity gala, one of those unavoidable events where Manhattan's elite gathered to congratulate themselves on their generosity. I was there with Rachel Chen, who'd become something like a friend. He was there with a woman I didn't recognize, blonde and 30 years younger than him. Our eyes met across the room. He raised his glass in a mock toast, his smile sharp and cold. I smiled back and turned away. Later, as I was leaving, I found him waiting by the coat check. You look happy, he said. It suits you. Thank you. I underestimated you, Olivia. I spent 32 years thinking I knew exactly who you were, and I had no idea. He leaned closer. But don't think this is over. Not really. I don't forget and I don't forgive. One day, when you're not expecting it, Richard, I cut him off, my voice calm and steady. I have copies of everything. The emails, the recordings, the financial records. They are stored in 3 different locations with 3 different attorneys, with instructions to release them if anything happens to me or my children. Anything at all. His smile faded. So yes, this is over. Because if it isn't, if you come after me again, if you threaten my family, if you so much as think about revenge, I will burn you to the ground. And this time, I won't offer a settlement. I collected my coat and walked out into the cold night air. Behind me, I heard him call my name one more time, but I didn't turn around. I had a new life waiting. Brownstone full of children and chaos and love. A future that belonged to me alone. I wasn't the woman Richard Brennan had married. I was Olivia. Just Olivia. And that was more than enough.